Things have been rough for the Pac 12 over the last decade or so, and now it's getting even worse. This time, self inflicted wounds, hurting the Pac 12 financially moving forward and perception wise. Welcome into the channel. I am John Kurtz. Here on this channel, we talk college football from a Big 12 slant. If you are interested in college football, conference realignment, the Big 12, please consider clicking subscribe. I go live twice a week and give you other content around that as well. And this certainly warranted talking about. Typically, I'd be doing a live show here on a Sunday, but with Cowboys 49ers going on, I know that I'm competing against a lot. So we're going to go live tomorrow night. I promise you I will go live tomorrow, and I have some new content dropping for you tomorrow morning as well. So I'm padding it, making up for it, and we'll get back on a regular schedule as soon as we can. For now, we need to focus on this mess of a story coming out of the Pac-12, okay? So I'm going to be reading to you from John Wilner of the Pac-12 hotline, but the Pac-12 in some financial hot water here, and as such, they have fired two senior executives. So here from the story, the Pac-12 on Friday terminated the employment of two senior execs, including the president of the Pac-12 networks, for failing to disclose overpayments by a media distribution partner to the networks that made the annual revenue appear more robust than it was. Translated, two guys involved with the Pac-12 networks were fired for not disclosing that a media partner had actually been overpaying them. And as we'll come to find out, this has been happening all the way back to 2016. And now the Pac-12 may have to pay back $50 million at least to this media partner. And the two guys that got fired are fired because they didn't tell anybody about this for years, which is a pretty wild story in and of itself, taking away the implications financially for the league, perception-wise, and everything else moving forward. All right, so George Kliavkoff, from the article, Commissioner George Kliavkoff carried out the dismissals with approval of Pac-12 Board of Directors and following an investigation by an independent outside legal firm. Pac-12 didn't actually identify the executives, but some sleuths were able to figure out pretty quickly on the Pac-12 staff directory. Pac-12 Networks President Mark Shuckin and CFO Brett Willman, who oversees finances for both networks and conference operations, they were removed, and then a source confirmed to John Wilner that they were the two executives terminated. So the Pac-12's not messing around here. I mean, $50 million and not disclosing that all the way back to an audit in 2017, which again is what we will come to find out. That is serious stuff. And for those guys, I mean, their careers obviously are going to be heavily impacted by that. It says the distribution partner, also unidentified, claims the overpayments totaled $50 million over the course of years, potentially impacting Pac-12 athletic department budgets in the future. One thing to note here, ESPN and Fox are not Pac-12 Network's distribution partners. So before you start getting too carried away with this, being, oh, this is going to hurt their chances with ESPN and Fox for an upcoming media deal, it is not ESPN and Fox. We do know that. So it's not a total disaster scenario for the Pac-12 as far as that goes. Pac-12 did release an official statement, but it's pretty boring, I'll be honest. I'm not going to actually read that to you. But the Pac-12, if we think about this as a whole now, they haven't been to the playoff in 7 years. They've been beat to the altar for a TV deal by Brett Yormark, who secured widespread eyeballs with Fox and ESPN. The league is already behind the Pac-12, everybody else financially, pulling in $34 million in total distribution last year. That's $43 million what the Big 12 had in total distribution, not just TV, with total distribution to the league members. So they're $9 million behind the Big 12 already. That figure for their new TV deal, again, has been rumored by Wilner and some to potentially be higher than what the Big 12 just inked, but we shall see. It's an uphill climb financially, perception-wise, and on the field right now for the Pac-12 is the point. And now, facing trying to get a long-term TV deal done that everybody is sitting around wondering why exactly it is taking so long to get figured out here at this point, now you're going to have to deal with this on top of it, which will mean a bit of a financial penalty, seemingly, to all of the schools here. But more than that, just everybody looking around like, what is going on? What the hell is happening within the Pac-12 that you've got people like cooking the books here, fudging the numbers a little bit over the past 5 or 6 years? And it is not going to be a good look for the league. And it seems like the Pac-12 just can't catch a break in the news cycle right now. So here are some of the details about this. It says an audit directed by the Pac-12 in 2017 and completed later that year concluded that one of the Pac-12 distribution partners had overpaid the Pac-12 networks for 2016 by a material amount. But these two guys, Shuckin and Willman, didn't personally benefit from overpayments here, but they didn't tell anybody. So what we know, they didn't tell anybody, and if you're wondering about motive, it was not like money was going into their pocket directly, but there has been some speculation, all right, did these guys not say it because it just made the league look better for what the numbers coming in were, or did it trigger something that was a bonus for them that indirectly gave them money? We don't actually have any of that information. Another key part of this, and it's pointed out by Wilner here, is that Larry Scott, the former commissioner of the league, who, again, disaster, he's the one that got them into the Pac-12 network mess in the first place. He was interviewed for all this. We don't know what his involvement was. We don't know if this ever made it to his desk and he just let it go. But what we do know is those two gentlemen were fired. Larry Scott obviously doesn't work for the league anymore. It says, other than issuing the public statement, the conference declined to comment on any aspect of the investigation, including the people interviewed, and said its focus is addressing the claim and the executives whose employment was terminated on Friday. It is unclear whether the Pac-12 will have to reimburse the partner making the claim. That's a line from this first story, but if you read like Bob Thompson, the former Fox Sports TV president who's on Twitter very active, I mean, he makes it very clear. Like, this will have to be repaid. And even Wilner goes on to admit in another article, like, you're staring down the barrel of probably having to repay this. And we assume that that amount is $50 million, but perhaps it could be more. We shall see. Either way, the Kliavkoff strategy here with this new TV deal has already seemingly been to chase money and chase a PR win of getting a deal that's going to be more per school than the Big 12, but that would probably come at the expense of exposure if you're going to do that with like an Amazon. This is not great news. I mean, it's not going to be hammering these schools financially, but it certainly is not great news to be losing a little bit of money here while you're in the business of chasing a bigger bottom line payout to your schools right now with a TV deal. And here's a little bit more from Wilner about the fact that the Pac-12 probably will have to pay this money that was overpaid over time. It says the facts at hand strongly suggest the Pac-12 will reimburse the distributor for the total amount of the overpayments. Maybe that's $50 million, maybe it's more, maybe it's less. And ultimately, any reimbursement is cash from the conference that won't be paid to schools as part of the annual distributions. So he details here, if, for example, $50 million is withheld over the course of the current and upcoming fiscal year, that's $2.1 million per school per year. A significant amount, but not budget crushing for the athletic departments. True. Significant. Certainly, you'd love to have the extra $2 million. It's not going to be totally crushing, but every penny kind of matters right now, especially to UCLA, who is one of the schools that will be included in this, and they will stand to lose some money from this. They need all the money they can get right now, even when going to the Big Ten, because they are in trouble. Wilner says also the discovery of the overpayments could impact Pac-12 Network's revenue for the remainder of the current contract cycle with the distributor, which expires in the summer of 2024. All right, so maybe there's a little bit of other money that comes out of this for the Pac-12 before that distribution deal is done. And Wilner closes, of course, we should expect more information to surface in the coming months as the Pac-12 digs deeper into this mess. Kliavkoff apparently briefed the presidents at a previously scheduled meeting in November about all of this, and he found out in October. So Kliavkoff has been aware of this for a little while, and clearly the Pac-12 has been going through some sort of investigation here themselves. And it says Cooley, the outside firm here, completed their investigation in January and determined these executives failed in their obligations and duties to immediately disclose this information. So the basic timeline here, just a recap. In 2017, the Pac-12 networks engaged in the auditor. They told the auditor to come figure this out. The audit concluded that one of the distribution partners had overpaid the Pac-12 for 2016. Two Pac-12 executives who were terminated were made aware of the audit results in December of 2017, but they failed to inform the Pac-12 board of directors or the Pac-12's external auditors of the financial risk associated with those findings, aka they didn't do anything. They didn't tell anybody. Since 2017, the two executives have not shared the ongoing financial risk associated with the overpayment, which continued. And then in October of this year, the distributing partner, who was the subject of this audit, finally decided to come public with this. Either they just figured out or for whatever reason only now decided to become public with this. But they are now claiming that the payments outstanding are over $50 million. So as far as what is next, I think there are some key questions to address here. Wilner says, we don't know which company was involved, but we know it was not Fox and ESPN. Says that might be the only sliver of good news for the conference in this matter because they are so highly influential. But he does raise these questions. What prompted the networks to seek the initial audit by the industry-leading firm in the spring of 2017? Right. Why was this audit happening in the first place? Did they have suspicion of something like this happening? And then did it happen and these two guys just didn't tell anybody about it? If the overpayments were only for each year since prior to 2016, why did the distributor not step forward until October 2022? So yeah, why did this partner that felt like they were getting gypped and overpaying, why did they not say anything until just now, which he says possible answer, the Pac-12 never came clean about the overpayments. And I would have to imagine that's it, right? You're not going to keep overpaying year after year after year for 5 years unless you are just unaware of this. It says, did the overpayments continue after 2016 until the partner stepped forward in October 2022? Okay, so fair question. Maybe this was all like one lump sum overpayment or something, and then it just stayed underneath, and these execs hoped it would just go away, and now somebody found out on the distributor's part. Another question, we're also left to wonder why Willman and Shukin didn't take what the Pac-12 believed would have been appropriate steps once they learned of the situation. And here's where Wilner says, did the overpayments lead to a revenue figure that somehow triggered performance bonuses for executives? A quote from a source here, according to Wilner, says, it doesn't make any sense. Something is definitely missing. And I would agree with that. Like, there are a ton of questions here. Most of them centered around just the actual crime here and, like, why is this happening? And more like kind of in a Pac-12 sense, like what is going on with these execs that I am very interested in. As far as it affects their TV deal moving forward, I think the biggest thing is just going to continue to be perception. The Pac-12 already has perception problems all the way around. I know that these guys obviously are not there anymore. Larry Scott's not there anymore. Kliavkov is a different guy, and for all of his faults, I'm not going to really blame him for this. But it certainly doesn't help if you're trying to formulate trust with a new media partner. And, you know, you could look around and be like, well, the Pac-12 network was a disaster. You guys were beefing up the numbers that you were taking in financially because of this and not telling anybody. You're getting destroyed by people like Brett Yormark in the media cycle right now, the news cycle. Do we really want to get in bed with you? Like, what reason do we have to trust you? What reason do we have to potentially overpay you if we are an Amazon and trying to help you hit your financial goals? I think it's more just, this is another paper cut, really, for the Pac-12. Beyond the financial part, which won't help the schools. It's another paper cut. And then I would throw this out there, too. One question you'll have to ask, and maybe I should have raised this sooner, is does this, a school like Arizona, does this make a school like Arizona look again and be like, man, we have stability over here in the Big 12. We're going to have similar financials, if not better, in the Big 12. This is a clown show. This is just a clown car that's been rolling around for years with the Pac-12. We're not exactly super confident in George Kliavkov the way things are going. Do we really want to hang around? Do we really want to stick around and deal with this? Maybe it's another nudge in that direction. By the way, this all happened the same week that John Wilner wrote a column that I will talk more about on the next live show, again, Monday night, which was all about how the Pac-12 actually does really need to hurry with this media distribution deal just to get some stability done. That came out, and then this happened. So Pac-12 country, I'd imagine, is a little bit antsy just with all this happening right now, and a pretty bad news cycle once again for the league. Continue to monitor it. I think it's, we're definitely in watch mode, not warning. If you're from the Midwest like me, we're in tornado watch mode, not tornado warning mode. But this does not help. This does not help anything for a conference that has been fighting public perception issues worse than the Big 12 is now. The Big 12 has set its course and seems to be moving in a positive direction. For the Pac-12, it's generally the opposite right now. Again, more on the live show coming up tomorrow night. If you feel so inclined, you can help support the channel on Venmo, John-Kurtz-4, if you'd like to do so there. Please consider subscribing and click the bell to get alerts for when I'm going live and when I drop new content if you have not. Talking Big 12 football, college football, and conference realignment here on this channel. With that, I bid you adieu. Take care, and I will talk to you soon.
Recording stopped.